This will be the 25th Notre Dame graduation during my time as bishop. After much prayer, I decided not to attend the graduation. I wish no disrespect to our president. I pray for him and wish him well. I have always revered the office of the presidency, but a bishop must teach the Catholic faith in season and out of season, and he teaches not only by his words but by his actions. My decision is not an attack on anyone, but is a defense of the truth about human life. Even as I continue to ponder in prayer these events, so must Notre Dame. Indeed, as a Catholic university, Notre Dame must ask itself, if by this decision it has chosen prestige over truth. As this clear rejection of our own followers of Dives shows, the promise that Newman saw in American Catholicism is alive and well, though the Socinian temper spreads apace. One of the great what-ifs of Newman's career is what might have resulted if he had traveled himself to America. In June 1854, Archbishop John Hughes of New York wrote to assure Newman that the money and students America could offer the university would be immense. He also invited Newman to cross the Atlantic to give what he was convinced would be a lucrative lecture tour. Thackeray, after his 1850 tour, described it as including plenty of good fellows, merry dinners, and pleasant cigars. In the first 6 weeks alone, he earned £500, a tidy sum, especially if we take into account that he invested them in U.S. railway stocks, which at that time were yielding a profit of 8%. Newman might not have been interested in the cigars, but he could certainly have used those lecture fees. As it happened, Newman never made the crossing. He was duty-bound to leave Dublin and return to his oratory. So willy-nilly, a huge opportunity for raising funds for the Catholic University was lost. Still, Newman would always be grateful to Americans for their generous support. Newman was, as you doubtless know, very grateful to the Americans for forking over for his fees in the Achille case, where he was accused of libel. Still, Newman would always be grateful to Americans for their generous support. He was keenly aware that the ties he was forging with the Catholics of America would bear long-lasting fruit. This, our first step, he told Archbishop Kenrick, important as it is, will be by the divine blessing only the humblest in a long series of successive movements which are to follow. That many as may be our difficulties, we shall, by the generous prayers and the persevering alms of the faithful, be carried over them, and that an undertaking founded in the union of Catholics so widely dispersed and so various by circumstances will issue in more than corresponding benefits, external and temporal, to many countries and many generations. The generous prayers and persevering alms of American Catholics will always make conclusions about Newman and the Americans inadvisable. Their heroic story remains unfinished. Nevertheless, some provisional conclusions can be made. While Tractarianism initially galvanized the Anglican Church on both sides of the pond, it never overcame its inherent contradictions. At the same time, the Tractarian movement embroiled Anglicanism in an identity crisis that, far from resolving its divisions, exacerbated them. What was perhaps most instructive about Tractarianism for Newman was that it corroborated something John Adams told Benjamin Rush in 1812, and I quote, "No clear-headed man, no man who sees all the consequences of a proposition can be an Orthodox Church of England man without being a Roman Catholic." After Newman converted, despite his hopes for the revival of the English Catholic Church, which he expressed so unforgettably in the Second Spring, it was in America, and particularly in its network of schools and colleges, as Waugh intimated, that his vision for the future of Catholicism found its amplest embodiment. I shall end where I began, in Newman's personal interest in Americans and their country. In 1885, an anonymous friend of Newman sent him a circular soliciting support for the nation Catholic University of America. Newman wrote to James Gibbons, the Archbishop of Baltimore, who wrote that wonderful catechetical book, The Church of Our Fathers, which is still in print, welcoming with the warmest interest the eloquent appeal of your university board to the Catholics of the United States. At a time when there is so much in this part of the world to depress and trouble us as to our religious prospects, the tidings which your circular conveys of the actual commencement of so great an undertaking on the other side of the ocean will rejoice the hearts of all educated Catholics in these islands. Gibbons assured Newman that though you have reached the evening of life, you are still regarded by us all as a tower of strength. And so he remains. Now, as the beatification of Venerable John Henry Cardinal Newman nears, we must redouble our efforts to ensure that the magnificent legacy of this tower of strength is faithfully transmitted. Thanks very much.
The discussion will be moderated by the senior master of our faculty and a member of the history, political science, and Christian doctrine departments, Mr. Clifford Howkins.
All right, thank you for that very illuminating talk. And now we open up for questions. Yes, sir.
I'd like your opinion as to what extent American Catholics have been aided in their journey in congregationalism by liturgical reforms. I go to a church, I'm from Massachusetts. I went to church in Empty, Spanish Empty. I go to a church in Florida where I spent some time. They're full of what's going on there, often resembles a mega church, sort of evangelical, Latin faith. I'm learning to what extent the church reforms as they've been called by the horizontal congregation universal.
I'm going to repeat the essence of the question so everyone can hear them. What is the future of the Catholic Church in America, where after religious reforms, I suppose since Vatican II, there is a sort of happy, clappy mega church tendency in parts of the country? Please.
Well, honestly, I don't know. I don't know whether I am in a position to comment on that. I certainly share your exasperation when it comes to these assaults on darling Catholic liturgy. I was in a church once in Boston after looking at pictures, and there was a drum kit and electric guitars being played on the stage. So that was rather disconcerting. However, I think that you might also agree with me that our Holy Father certainly is focused on reining in a lot of these abuses. And in my own case, in New York City, in Father Butler's Church of Our Savior, we certainly are not treated to that happy-clappy stuff that you so rightly deplore. But I do think that Benedict gives us hope, because I think Pope Benedict gives us hope, because he recognizes that there